Hello and welcome to the second part of the After Effects tutorial series, Getting Started with iExpressions. In this series, you learn how to work with mamoworld iExpressions in After Effects. iExpressions is an extension that allows you to use expressions without writing a single line of program code. Hence, this expert feature becomes very easy to use and allows you to work in After Effects in a simple, efficient and creative way. In this second part, we take a look at linking and beat detection. This allows you to link properties to other properties and to automatically animate properties according to the music. Okay, so in this second part we will look at a little bit more detail at these linking options that we have with iExpressions. So we've seen this already a little bit in the first part where we've linked the some wiggle, so the amplitude of the wiggle to some slider, and now we will see how to link properties to other properties. Yeah? So I do this in quite some detail because I think this linking is a really powerful feature of iExpressions that gives you so many possibilities what you can do with it, and so in particular it helps you to avoid keyframes. So if you see what I've prepared here already, it is this project here with 4 different layers. Ball is this ball here in the middle, then we have a ball Y that moves here basically in this Y direction, and then the ball X that moves here in X direction, and we have a layer line which has 2 effects on it, actually some beam effects, beam and beam 2, and these are the 2 beams you can see here. And what I already have prepared is I have keyframed here the movement of this point and this point, and what we now want is that these lines and this ball here move accordingly. And of course you could just keyframe all of this, put according to these keyframes here, keyframes for this line and for this ball. But if you do that, the problem is that once you want to modify these keyframes here, so move this one and this one here differently, you have to update also all the keyframes of these objects here, and this makes everything not flexible at all. You cannot play easily with your project, so therefore I show you how to use linking expressions to do it, and then you have less keyframes, namely only these keyframes here, and all the other objects that depend, so to say, on these 2 points update automatically. You can think of this as an alternative to parenting, but it's much more powerful than parenting, because you can, for example, parent here the start and end points of these beams with the expressions, which you could never do using the parenting of After Effects itself. And you can even do something like connecting this ball here to this ball and this one, and take some information from this one and some from this one. So very powerful things. Let's see how this works. In the library we choose the linking iExpressions. We have here a bunch of different links. So average links, for example, allow one point to connect to several others and always put it in the middle. This is, for example, useful for averaging keyframes, or if you want some properties to move or some layers to move in between others. Limited time parent, as the name already says, is like parenting, but you can have such a parenting relation only for a limited amount of time, which is quite nice. Linear link we will cover later with the audio stuff. And then there are separate links that we also need later, and this simple links here. Simple links exist as 1D, 2D and 3D, which means for 1D, 2D and 3D properties. In this case, we want to link positions of layers, of 2D layers, so 2D values, therefore we select the simple link 2D. Click on OK. And as you can see, this interface of this simple link is really easy. You just have here one property, and this is this link to. What we do now is we link this property here to the value that we want to connect to. So for example, let's say we want to connect to the position of, let me clean up this here a little bit. We just let's say we want to connect to the position of this ball Y, so we select it and click here. Now we have an iExpression that you can apply to arbitrary properties, and that just takes the value over from this ball y, or links to this ball y value. Yeah. If we apply this now, for example, to the start point here of this beam, hit apply, you can see immediately it jumps here. And also, if this ball moves, the beam moves accordingly. So very easy. Now note that we do not have auto apply enabled, therefore I can safely unlink this here without unlinking here actually this relationship. What I now want to do is I link to the position of ball x. Yeah, so I select this one, click here on link to. Now we have an iExpression that actually follows this position here, and we apply this to the starting point of the second beam. Starting point second beam, apply, and the second beam starts now at this position here. Now you can imagine we can do exactly the same also with the position of this ball here. So I again hit P to reveal the position and undo this link here and link now to this position of this ball. And for this one, we now use here the endpoint, apply to the endpoint, and now the endpoint is connected here. And also the endpoint of the second beam, apply, and also this one is connected. By the way, you can also apply it to several properties at once. Yeah. So let's say you can select this endpoint and shift or control key selected. So I've just selected both of them, and if I now apply, it applies it to both of them simultaneously. This is in this case not very important, but if you have more complex projects where say you want to link 100 layers to one other or so, you can easily just select all of them and click on apply. Okay, what we now have is that these lines are nicely connected and follow our objects. What we do not have yet is that this ball here follows this one and this one. For this, we do not want to use the simple link, but another iExpression that is called separate link. Yeah, so linking, and we have here separate link 2D and separate link 3D. What this means is that each of the two components of a 2D value can be linked to something different, and here all the three components of a 3D value can be linked to something different. As we have 2D values, I select this one. Hit OK. And now you can see this linking expression has something that says, okay, which property do you want to take the x value from? So I want definitely to have the x value from the ball x layer. So I select its position and click here. And the y value I actually want to take from this. Yeah. So I click here on the ball y and link it. And then I apply this iExpression to the position of this ball. And what it does is, if you look here also at the numbers now, the y coordinate 577 is taken from the ball y, and the x coordinate 666.9 is taken from the ball x. Yeah, in other words, this ball automatically moves according to these two properties. Okay, another thing I also want to show you here is that you can also always tweak these links here and manipulate them a bit. If you click here on this triangle, you see a lot of advanced options of this link. And the idea is, for example, in the default setting, linking this value to this one means that they are exactly identical. Yeah, this is 807.4 in the x coordinate, and this one also, because they are linked. You can also say something like, I want this to be 20 more or less, by just clicking here on 20. And I have to reapply it, so I select this one here and click on apply. Maybe I also enable auto apply to apply all my changes automatically. You can see now this is 807.4 and this is 827.4. Yeah, so it's just moved a bit. And this stays here always like this with this link. Yeah, it's always 20 more. So we can shift stuff. You can think of something like you have one layer and then you have 20 other layers that are all offsetted a bit using this parameter here, and you just animate one and the others follow automatically. I reset this here to 0. And And the second thing you can do is to say you define a time offset. This means that the linking is a little bit like time delayed. In other words, if I put this here to a value of 10, then this means this one takes always the value that this one here had 10 frames earlier. Yeah? So if you look at the RAM preview, you can see that this here will now start moving to the right according to the keyframes, and now 10 frames later, this one also starts moving. So it's like a delayed connection, yeah, with just this time offset of 10 frames here, which is, yeah, quite nice. And you can also have there some trailing effects that some layers follow some others with a certain temporal or time delay. Set this here back to 0. Other things you can do is you can link this to other properties. So currently this ball x here is linked to the x component of the original value. You can also link it to the y or the z component, or even to the speed. Yeah, linking to the speed would mean, for example, think of a blur effect that you link to the speed of a layer, which means you get kind of a motion blur. Yeah, the faster the layer moves, the more intensive is your blur. Very nice options that you have in any kind of linking. So this is not specific to this separate link 2D, but once you use here this linking thing, this button, and have linked it, you have always these options with which you can modify all the links you use in iExpressions. Okay, so now you have some ideas how powerful the linking in iExpressions is, but actually this tutorial is not just about linking, but also about beat detection. In other words, how to animate stuff according to music without keyframing this manually. And for this I also have here already some wave files, so some sound inside of my project. So let me just enable it and play it so that you get an idea. Yeah, and according to this music, we now want to animate our our position of this ball and position of this ball. Yeah, so currently they are keyframed, but let's just remove these keyframes. Just click here and click here to get rid of them. Now they are not moving at all anymore. And what we now want to do is to animate them according to this wave file here. And actually this file can be found as part of CS5 in Soundbooth. If you look at the Soundbooth library, you will find communion such that you can use it in your project if you like. I just go here now to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, convert audio into keyframes. This is what you always have to do as a first step when you want stuff to animate according to music. And what you then get is a new layer called Audio Amplitude, and on this layer you have 3 effects, namely left channel, right channel, and both channels. And these just contain here sliders, and the slider says at each point in time what is the volume or the amplitude or loudness of the music at this point in time. Yeah, so here the volume is 17, and here it's just 8, and so on. If it would be completely silent, this would be 0. Yeah, you can see how is the music behaving over time. You also have this here for the left and right channel separately, but I delete those because I just want to use the both sliders value. And now in exactly the same way as you could link properties here to other properties, you can of course link them to this slider here. Yeah, but if we would link now this one to this amplitude slider here with a simple link, it would not be very meaningful, because then you would have here just a value of 14.44 here and here, which doesn't help me anything. I want to move this here according to this slider in this direction. And what you can use for this is in the library the following expression. It's also in the linking, not in the audio category. We are going to look at the audio stuff in a minute, but the very basic audio linking, so to speak, can be done already here with some linking iExpression, namely with the linear links. Linear means we link something to a slider, and we can link to a slider a 1D property, a 2D property, or a 3D property. Yeah. In this case we have a 2D property, namely the position of this ball. I just hit return here, and so this looks a bit complex because there are so many numbers, but I promise you it's really, really easy. We have here this slider that represents, in this case, the volume of our music, yeah? And we want to use this slider to drive our animation. So we link this here to the slider. And then what you just have to specify is what is the minimum value of the slider and the maximum. If you scroll here over time and look at this value, you will see that this audio amplitude in this case has always values roughly between 0 and 30. Yeah, so I just say the minimum is 0 and the maximum is 30. And now we want to move something according to this slider. And you just need to tell him, or tell the expression here, okay, where should I be? What should be the value for when the slider is at its minimum? Put this here. And when the slider is its maximum, where should I be then? And so if we want to move this point here, yeah, let's say I move this here to the very bottom. Let's say when the volume is 0, yeah, when it's at its minimum, this point should be here, meaning it should have this value here, 1182. 1182, and the y component 584.2, yeah, like this. And then let's say when the volume is very loud, if it reaches 30 here, then I want to be here much higher. Let's say at this position, yeah. So this is then 1182, 1182, and 255.2, like this. Okay, if I apply this now to this position, the result looks as follows. You can see now that this starts moving up and down, so it moves between this value and this value here, depending on where this slider, in this case here, this audio amplitude, is located. Yeah, so this, when this here changes up and down, this moves between this point and this point. And the result now looks as follows. Okay, very nice. So this is the most easy thing you can do with connecting something to sound. So create here an audio amplitude layer with this volume using the keyframe assistant, and then just use a linear link iExpression to connect it to this volume. You can also control in the same way, for example, the opacity of layers, yeah, making it appear or disappear according to the sound of the music. For this, you do not need the linear link 2D, but 1D, because opacity is a 1D property. You can also animate 3D properties with the linear link 3D according to music, and so on. We could do the same, of course, now also for this ball X, that it also just moves to the changing volume or amplitude of the music. But here we want to do something even more advanced, which I call beat detection. So the idea is that you do not just want to have some music, but you the volume of the music, but you really want to detect some beats here and animate according to the beat of the music. What we do for this is we duplicate our audio amplitude layer, Control D, and call this here, for example, audio amplitude X, because this is now the audio amplitude you want to use for animating of this ball X here. And I again select here this both channels slider. And what we now want to do with it is we want to apply some expression on it. And this expression can be found, of course, iExpression can be found in the audio category. And here you find different beat detectors. Beat detector automatic, from marker, and via threshold. The automatic one, you just give one example beat, and then it tries to find similar parts in the music that sound very similar and that it then also considers as beats. This one takes the beats from markers, which is often very convenient, and what I want to show you now. The threshold thing detects or considers everything as a beat that has a certain volume level. You can say everything that has a loudness or a volume between 20 and 30 is a beat or something like this. Once you've used such a beat detector, you can use these switches and mixers to further process them. This is more advanced, and I'm going to show this in other tutorials. And then you just use these change on beat iExpressions to move stuff according to these detectors. But let's also postpone this in a minute and first see how these beat detectors work. I just choose here the beat detector from marker, return. And this is actually very easy. I just apply it here to the slider without changing anything. And what you now see is that this volume here, or this beat value, immediately becomes 0 everywhere. And this is because this beat detector waits for markers where it thinks, okay, there is a beat at this marker. Yeah. And so I can now go to this layer where the slider is on, this is important, and go to animation, to layer at marker, or I can press the star key here on the numpad. Yeah. And now you can see immediately the slider changes to 100 because it says, here is a marker. And then if you move to the right, it slowly decreases again to 0. And if I put here another marker, layer at marker, it puts another 100 here. Yeah, it means you can control where this slider here has a value of 100 by just setting here these markers. You can see this better if you click here on the graph editor and then go here to the slider and say you want to see the post expression graph. So show me the value of the expression, and you can see that the value is here always 0 except for these 2 peaks. Okay, 2 peaks are here not very useful. What we want, I just remove here these markers again. I now want to set markers according to the music. This is like clapping with the music, but instead of clapping like this, you just hit the keyboard key here, numpad star, to set markers. Yeah. Let me just do this, and you have to press the comma key on your number keyboard, on your numpad, to start the music playback, and then this numpad star key to set the beats. Okay, so I've just set here a few keyframes. Let me just zoom here a little bit out. And what we now, of course, have, if we look here at our graph, is for each of those beats, 1 peak in my audio amplitude. Yeah? This is now exactly according to the beat. And one thing that is sometimes a bit annoying is if you have a very long music, you do not want to listen to the entire clip from the start to the end and put your markers everywhere. But the nice thing is with iExpression, you don't need this, yeah, because you have here this continue automatically magic, so to speak, that performs just a continuation of what you've done here. For this, I need to reapply it, yeah, because I didn't have auto apply enabled. So I enable here continue automatically and reapply it to the slider, apply. And magically you can see that now these peaks appear everywhere. Yeah. So in other words, you do not need to process the entire file, put markers everywhere in your composition, but just do it for a certain region and then say continue automatically, and the iExpression will do its best to continue the pattern that you, so to speak, entered here using these markers, that it will be continued. Okay, of course, now the next question is, what do I do with these peaks now? How do I manage that this one here animates according to these peaks? And what you can do, of course, is do the same as for this y value here and use this linear link iExpression. But once you use these beat detectors, you can also use some easier expressions for this purpose. And these you find again in the library under audio. And these are the change on beat iExpressions. Yeah, you can say arbitrary values, no matter whether they are 1D, 2D, or 3D values, or even texts, can change at a beat. Yeah, so this one here, the text thing, would, for example, allow you to, at each beat, so in other words, at each peak here, you could replace the source text of some text layer by some other text. And we want to modify a 2D value at each beat, yeah, because the position of our layer is 2D. So I select this one. And now we can have to just say here two different things, namely, okay, which is the beat that you want to react on? So we select here our audio amplitude slider that corresponds here to these peaks and link it to this beat. And then, okay, what do you want to do on each beat? Yeah, what you can do is you can add something to your original value, or you can replace the original value. So with this one, if we would apply this now to the position of our ball X here, it would mean at each beat, please move to the position 100, 100. Yeah. Let's just do this. Apply. And we can see here we are currently not at a beat. Here, yeah, we are not at a beat and nothing happens. And now we go to a beat here. And you can see the point jumps to the position 100, 100 here. Yeah? We do not want it to really jump there, but we want to add this to our original value. If we apply this, and maybe enable auto apply, we can see, from here it now jumped 100, 100 in this direction. And of course, we only want it to jump in X direction, so we set this Y component here to 0. And then we can even increase this here and say it should not jump 100, but let's say it should jump 700 in this direction. And then it looks like this. So let's look at a quick RAM preview of this. We can see here whenever the green bar here reaches a new peak, this one jumps here to the right by 700 pixels. Yeah, bam, now it moves. And now it goes back to the next beat, and so on. One last detail I want to show you is how you can tweak the details of these peaks here. Yeah. So in this case, for example, how quickly here this at each beat this point moves back to its original position and so on. This is basically controlled by the shape of this peak here. Yeah. If you look at the peaks in more detail, you can see that they start here very, very quickly and then they slowly go back. Yeah, and this exactly corresponds to this movement. So abruptly it jumps here and then it slowly moves back. And if you want to manipulate this, you just have to manipulate the curve of this one. And we do this by just manipulating the expression that creates these peaks. Yeah, so I select here our slider again and click on load. And yeah, you already know the continue automatically option that creates here more peaks. And then you have this fade in out option. Yeah. So, for example, you can say if you want it also to slowly move here and not to abruptly jump here at the beginning, instead of this one here, we set here some fading in, yeah, of 10. And we apply this and also enable here auto apply such that the next changes are automatically done. You can see now it slowly increases to this one and slowly decreases again. Yeah. In other words, here at each beat it moves here and then it moves back instead of jumping abruptly here, because we have here this fade in set. Also, we have different fade types. So instead of having an exponential fade, we can also have a linear fade. You can see that now this start, here this fade in and fade out, is not that curved anymore, but it's like a straight line. In other words, now it moves here with a constant speed to the right and then with a constant speed back to the left. Yeah, but usually I think this exponential one looks a little bit more organic. And of course you can also change the size. So if you want it to jump here slower or to decrease here slower, you can say the fade out should be 20 pixels, and then you can see it fades out much slower. So you can really fine-tune your movements by just modifying here the movement or modifying the beats of these sliders here that are created by the beat detectors. Okay, so this is now the basic idea how to link stuff to other stuff using iExpressions, and in particular how to link it to audio. So to sum it up again, the easy thing is to create an audio amplitude and then just link stuff to the audio amplitude using the linear link iExpressions. And if you want to do something more advanced, just apply one of the 3 beat detector iExpressions to the audio amplitude, and then use these change on beat iExpressions to make stuff happen at the beats that you've detected using the audio. Okay, I will also offer some advanced tutorials showing also the other beat detectors and so on later. Until then, I hope you stay tuned and also join again in the next part of this tutorial series that is not about linking anymore or beat detection anymore, but about random text.